whether he was a deserter or just AWOL remains to come out hopefully in the debates president. Anyway, he went into the oil business, didn't do so well there. Tried to run for governor, didn't do so well there. He did some business deals in Texas, didn't do so well there. Finally, he got to be governor of Texas, the king of lethal injections. He hung out with ZZ Top and Bono, but apart from that, didn't really have much going for him. What's he doing with that pen in his hand? That's really weird. Isn't that book upside down? Anyway, he made a few disastrous mistakes and went on vacation a lot. But no one has really investigated at all his connection with this guy, Barry Seal, who was the Kennedy assassin and also found dead in 1986 with George W. Bush's phone number in his pocket. Apparently also, this plane that you see here was at one time Seal's and is now W's. Isn't that a little bizarre?
A block off Bourbon Street in New Orleans is Royal Street, since the 1830s home to pricey galleries and antique shops. This elegant gallery belongs to a man named Dave Dixon, known as one of Louisiana's most prominent citizens. An intimate of governors for decades, Dixon is locally revered as the father of the Louisiana Superdome. And for decades, this man, Dave Dixon, was also the CIA handler of the person known as the most successful drug smuggler in American history, Barry Seal. And at the trial of Clay Shaw, the only man ever charged in the murder of our president, Dave Dixon was a character witness to the accused. But the truly saddest part of this whole scandal is the way our free press has looked the other way. They called Seal's killing a gangland-style murder, but Barry Seal was not murdered by the Medellin cartel. The cover story that Jorge Ochoa, head of the cartel, caused Seal to be murdered in a contract killing is as much a big lie as anything ever churned out of Nazi propaganda mills during World War II. Incredibly, we discovered that on the night Barry Seal was slain, 3 other top lieutenants of the Medellin cartel were also murdered.
As our lead story, Metro News has uncovered some new information in the investigation into the assassination of Barry Seal. Reporter Dana Kay has the story.
Metro News has learned that there were a total of 4 drug-related killings the same day Barry Seal was gunned down here in Baton Rouge. And all of them seem to have been connected to the same drug ring operated out of Colombia. Metro News reported last night that a Colombian named Pablo Carrera was shot and killed in Colombia the same night Barry Seal was gunned down in Baton Rouge by a professional hit squad. Carrera was identified as the number 2 man in the Colombian drug organization headed by Jorge Ochoa. Metro News has now learned that 2 other Ochoa associates were shot to death at the same time. Another Colombian, Pablo Ochoa, was executed in Colombia, and the 4th Ochoa associate to die was a woman identified only as Barbara. She was killed in Miami.
Who killed Seal? Just 10 days before he died, in a typical display of the fearlessness for which he was justly famous, he threatened to expose the gun running and drug smuggling that flourished in Mena, Arkansas. The man he threatened, then Vice President George Bush. All 3 of the guys on trial, Richard Sharpstein, the Miami attorney for one of the Colombians convicted, told us, all told their attorneys that once they reached the U.S., their actions were directed by a military officer, whom they very quickly figured out to be Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North. Barry Seal died for a simple reason, a reason which redeems him somewhat in our eyes. He was getting ready to talk.
As was outlined in Fahrenheit 9/11, Bush also has ties with very sketchy drug banks and Jim Bath and the Bin Ladens. And you gotta wonder just how much of the family CIA drug smuggling tradition that W is carrying on from his father. What we do know for sure is that he's acting pretty crazy.
And now for a little refreshment. I sure am glad I was able to talk Bill into leaving the Coke dispenser.
W was known to have experimented with cocaine and marijuana back in his Yale Skull and Bones days. One author claims to know 3 people with first-hand accounts of W's expunged cocaine arrest. W says he's clean and sober these days, but some psychologists wonder if he might be displaying the classic dry drunk signs which include an increase in anxiety, mild tremors, mild depression, disturbed sleep patterns, inability to think clearly, craving for junk food, irritability, sudden bursts of anger, and unpredictable mood swings. I'm no psychologist, but that sounds just like W to me.
George W. Bush and cocaine. Today, Reverend Jesse Jackson said that George W. Bush should answer all these questions because of a double standard. He says because young black men are put in jail for the same offense. Do you agree with that?
I think it's up to the candidate to draw the line where he or she chooses to draw that line. Evidently, the governor has drawn the line there. I've always believed that people have a right to know if I'm a crook, but not a sinner, since we all are. And I think that in that regard, other people have to make the decision.
But I guess that's Reverend Jackson's point. He's saying that this is a criminal act and other people are thrown in jail for it.
I guess it is.
So George W. Bush should answer.
He's got to draw the line. I'm not in the business of advising another politician what to do.
In 1999, while running for president, Bush lied about his views on medical marijuana. Campaigning in Seattle, he answered questions about medical marijuana laws by saying, "I believe each state can choose that decision as they so choose."
Lay down. Lay down.
Police, that's why!
When we fight against drugs, we fight for the souls of our fellow Americans.
Get down.
Since W took office, his administration has presided over many raids of legitimate medical marijuana doctors, patients, and clubs.
President Bush wants still more.
To reduce illegal drug use in America.
And that's just the Washington money. Cities and states spend still more.
Including the LA Buyers Club in 2001 and the Santa Cruz Wham in 2002.
And they like to hit and then they like to hide out. But we're going to smoke them out. We're smoking them out. They're running. And now we're going to bring them to justice. But they're learning that this is a patient nation. A nation that is determined to smoke them out. We have our marching orders. My fellow Americans, let's roll.
Kind of an asshole, you can sing along with us. It goes like this. He's not smart, a C student, and that's after buying his way to school. Beady eyes, kind of dyslexic. Can he read? No one's really quite sure. He signs stuff, he executes people. Maybe that's why he doesn't have any friends. Cocaine and a little drunk driving. It don't matter. The government. Idiot son of an asshole. 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 Election. Most all week into the White House. The most people voted against him. He likes them, he is campaign. Dumping out, setting out the day, ready for bed. He may be some push today. He's always gonna be the other than you idiot son of an asshole. The 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 idiot son of an asshole. So don't hate us because we're Americans, just hate our government. Hate President Bush.
We can be summed up in one word: evil.
Yep, these Bushes are pretty evil. We shouldn't elect any more of them to office, that's for sure, and we shouldn't have let them steal the election in the first place. And, well, before we leave you, we'll give you this little look at the crazy, wild Bush girls and what they've been up to.